Hey, love, my name is Brittany Pollard, and you are now rocking with the Everyday Intentions podcast, your source for real conversation centered around stepping into your personal power, one intention at a time. This podcast is all about owning our voice, taking up space, expressing ourselves, and moving through life at our own pace. You are invited to the magic, so let's roll. What is up, my beautiful, amazing, prosperous, incredible, wonderful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Intentions podcast. My name is Brittany Pollard, and here we talk all about change and transformation through small, daily, intentional actions and thoughts. Today on the show, I wanted to come in and talk about the coronavirus, the COVID-19, and just share 5 self-care tips you can use to really care for yourself and nurture yourself during this time. At the start of the year, and by the start of the year, I mean February. Well, actually, no, like a month ago. So not even the beginning of February, I think mid-February to the end of February, we started hearing about the coronavirus, and a lot of us downplayed it. I know that I'll speak for myself and I'll say that, first it was this whole thing going around like, oh, it's just like the flu, it's just like the flu. And that was the mentality, right? We didn't think that it was that big of a deal, and none of us really took it serious until we started seeing how more and more people started dying. And I know for me, when I started seeing this, and especially after I watched a video on Instagram by a woman named Sonia Renee Taylor. She's a social justice activist. That's like a tongue twister to say all fast, but she's so much more. She's an author, she's a poet, she's a lot of things, but she's someone that I truly respect, and I always really listen to her opinion. And she was talking about how, with that mentality, right? It's just like the flu mentality. We're so quick to want to generalize and compare things, and, you know, we largely ignore them, right? And we don't check our privilege. And so, in listening to that, I realized just how dismissive that whole "it's just like the flu" phrase was. And that really hit me because it's even hard to say this, because you're looking at the percentage, you're looking at the mortality rate, the amount of people who die, right? You're focused on that, focus on numbers, which coronavirus has coronavirus has blew past the mortality rate for the flu. But in looking at that in the beginning, you're looking at a number, and you're not looking at an actual person. These people who passed away, regardless of what it was, even if it was the flu, if someone passed away because of the flu, that was someone's grandmother, that was someone's mother, someone's father, grandfather, uncle, sister, brother, cousin, whatever you name it. That someone was someone else's everything. And so I felt like a complete shithead for even participating in that conversation and allowing myself to go there and have that mentality, because it was just so dismissive of that person's experience. And not only that, it wasn't being mindful or in tune with those who were at risk the most, those who they're saying are at risk the most, which are the elderly and those with compromised immune systems. And there's just so much that I didn't see as well, because I wasn't in close proximity to it, right? Like, we don't get the flu, and at the time all the cases were in China. We live in the United States, so you're not seeing the effects. So it's easy to dismiss something when it doesn't affect you. And then and then things changed, right? They changed rapidly. And it went from all of a sudden being in China to damn near every single country in the entire world. So, yes, things changed, right? And in the US here, we saw businesses close, we saw the sports league shut down, and schools shut down. And that's when it got real for me. When the school shut down and they were like, the kids aren't going to be in school for a couple weeks. And then that extended to the kids aren't going back to school until September. That was like, oh shit, this is like really a real thing, and just seeing beaches closed and parks shut down and then curfews are imposed. People are going wild in stores. I know that we've all heard about the toilet paper and water thing. People are fighting. It was just like, holy moly, this stuff just hit. It was like the schools, and then them shutting down the Las Vegas Strip. I think that got the Nevada peeps' attention because I have half my family's in Las Vegas too. And so that got a lot of their attention where they were like, holy moly, the whole entire strip shut down. And with the strip, like you know how much money the strip makes a year? So I did look it up because I'm nosy and I like to research. But the strip per month makes about $55 million a month. And so, yeah, for folks to shut stuff down, like it had to be very serious. So it got really real. And now we feel it because we're in close proximity to it, right? And those who said it wasn't a big deal, including number 45, are now seeing that it's a big ass deal. And for the ones who are still dismissive of it, like those people, those spring breakers in Florida who are just like, you know what, I'm finna live my life. It's my spring break. Miss Rona ain't about to mess up nothing for me. Yeah, cases came from that too. So it's just a lot going on, and it's in our faces, it's in our homeland, it's real. Things are shutting down, and there's no way to look around it. And even more than that, it's just been a lot of change over the last 25 days, right? It feels like it's only been 25 days. I know that it's been longer, especially with the cases starting in China since last November. But I'm just saying here at home, as far as things really shifting in a way to really wake us up, it's been roughly, just lasted this entire month. And I know that this month we started off with about 100 confirmed cases, I think it was, when we started March. And at the time I'm recording this, which is on March 26th, we are now at, oh Lord, we are now at 102,000 cases, a little more than that. So, and like I said, the mortality rate is much higher, and it's just a really weird space to be in. I know that I find that I continue to ask the question of like, okay, what do we do? How do we keep continuing on with our lives in this very real threat? There's people who still have to go to work. It's business as usual. A lot of people haven't even really been granted the opportunity to just process what's happening. How do we do that? And there's also people who have lost jobs as well. How do we be in this space? How do we stay optimistic with this, like really, really in our backyards? How do we stay safe beyond what the CDC and the World Health Organization recommend? How do we be safe? How do we stay grounded? I've asked these questions. I've prayed over these questions. I've asked my ancestors these questions. Like, how do I show up fully as a mom and someone who is blessed to be able to continue to work? How do I learn how to homeschool my kid knowing that he's not going to go back to school until the end of the year? So and how do I protect him? There's just like so much going on, and it makes my head spin. And I know that y'all are with me. Y'all feel largely what I feel. And so, these may be your questions, and your questions may extend beyond this. How do I make sure I have basic necessities for my family? There's just a lot of questions. And when I took this to my ancestors and I just asked them, like, y'all, what do we do? The message I got, well, I actually got two messages. So the first message was focus on what you can control, right? And I think that's what is scary when we're looking at all of these different stats and numbers and we're paying attention to all of these business closures. And, we're being at home is different. Being quarantined is different, so people are really doing their best to adjust to that. But it's like, focus on what we can control within the very real situation that's happening. And then also allow yourself time to grieve what's going on. So instead of focusing on the outside world and just looking for those distractions, allow yourself to really grieve and process, and then focus on what you can actually do. So I put together a list of 5 things that we can collectively do to create our own little COVID-19 practices. You can call this a wellness kit, call it whatever feels good for you. But I know that each of them are going to be individual. So I'm going to share, but tweak it to what feels good for you. You know what this podcast is all about, doing what honors and serves you the most. So feel free, full permission to do that. I just want to encourage you to take the time to just really sit and think about each item to determine what's best for you. And I say this because I think it's important to have a foundation for us to really work from, because if we're focusing on what we can control, then we're able to create sustainable change. So with everyday intentions, it's all about, daily intentions and actions, and really fine-tuning our lens to the things that we can change and control. So it's the same thing in this situation. And any sustainable, long-lasting change starts from the inside, and it naturally permeates out. I had a guest on the show yesterday, and her episode will be out in a few weeks, but, she reiterated this, that change only happens when we first decide to change ourselves. And that's the focus I really want to bring us all back to is, I can't control the outside environment as the collective, but I can control what I'm doing with my body, with the 4 walls that I'm living in, with my family. I can focus on that. I can really focus on the foods that I'm eating, the amount of exercise I'm getting. I can focus on, making sure that my environment is clear. I can focus on those things. I can focus on my mindset, how I'm handling this. We can do so much more than I think we're giving ourselves credit for. And by us doing those things and then also following the guidelines of the CDC, that's all we can do. That is all we can do. So if we can really harness our power and really put that into the realistic things that we can do, then we're doing the absolute best that we can. And I want you to know that. So let's get into these self-care tips, hunties, because I know that's why we're all here. And once again, just know that this is just me sharing what was on my heart, what was communicated to me. It's not a substitute for coaching or therapy. And if you need more individualized help, I recommend that you consult with an actual professional who can offer those services, okay? Because safety is our priority. Safety is always our number one. So please use this as a foundation and create what feels best for you. If you need additional help beyond that, connect with a professional. All right. So tip number 1, allow yourself to grieve and cry. Allow yourself to grieve and cry. And I mean that in the realest way possible. Because the normalcy we've been accustomed to has shifted drastically, drastically over the last several weeks, the last several months for some. People have lost people have lost jobs, money, plans, future plans, maybe travel, whatever it was. There has been a lot of loss. And I don't think people are talking about that. I think that you've got people talking about, being optimistic and all those things, which is great. But also, let's recognize that people are at a fucking loss and people are sad. And a lot of us don't know how to feel because we're holding that down. So I just want to give you full permission to give yourself time to cry and process it and be honest about it, because there's no shame in that at all. Scream, cry, have a tantrum, have a meltdown, and just let all of that stuff out of your system as much as you need to, as much as it comes up, allowing yourself to just let it out into the world. Because holding on to grief and sadness physically affects your mind and body. Okay, it really actually does. You can read up on the effects of grief on the body, and you can see the ways in which it changes you. I actually recorded a meditation on meeting your grief and allowing yourself to release it. So I'll link that in the show notes for you guys to check out, because I think that we need to start there before we can do anything else. Another place I actually think that we need to start with is acknowledging that this situation is real. There's no hiding from it. There's no turning away from it. We must acknowledge that it's real. And then from that place, we can create a plan. And once we're able to see how this quarantine, unfortunately, is going to be the new normal for who knows how long, then we can accept it and we can learn how to do our best to just be in it. And I don't say that from a place of escapism, but I say that from a place of really like naming the thing a thing, okay? And saying, all right, from here, like this is what it is, this is what it's going to be. Here's how I want to do this. I want to be this type of person. I want to use my time in this type of way. I want to have these types of relationships. And, when we acknowledge and accept, then we can make more empowered decisions and reclaim our own self-agency. So I know that I'm taking us on a little bit of a ride here, right? Because to me, they all kind of go in the same little home. We acknowledge, we accept, we allow ourselves to grieve. And then from that place, we can make more empowered decisions on how we want to focus on what we can do, right? It's those four elements all together. And I think with that, with the acknowledging and the accepting and the grief and the processing, I think that is also important for us to understand that sometimes we're going to be on this high ride where it feels like everything is amazing and things are okay and we're doing better. And then sometimes we're going to wake up and just feel like everything is going to shit. I'm so scared. I'm worried. We're going to have those feelings. And I think it's important to normalize that process and just understand that it's natural to feel all of that, especially because we are in an unnatural time. So we have to learn how to adapt and make adjustments. So that was like a big ass tip, but overall, I want you to make sure that you have grace with yourself as you are going through all of this and creating space to express your grief, making sure that you are not trying to escape the situation, but acknowledging it for what it is. And then you can really, really create a clear path to, engage in some true ass self-care. Because it's kind of like, after every giant storm, the skies are so clear it's been raining like cats and dogs here in LA. It's been like off and on where it'll rain a day and then it's sunny a day and it'll rain. But all of that rain, when you go out, the sky is so beautiful, so clear. There's white puffy clouds everywhere. I've been calling them like Simpsons clouds because they've just been absolutely gorgeous. But it took that rain, that cleansing, to create the space in the sky for us to be able to see that. So your tears are very, very cleansing. They are salt water, just like the ocean. Salt is a very, very, salt is healing, right? So allow yourself to process that. All right, so moving on to tip number 2, that is all about cleansing your environment. And I mean this in a practical way and then also in an energetic way, decluttering way. Cleaning and sanitizing your home is important because it kills off germs and it prevents the spread. And I was reading upon this, and according to the World Health Organization, so when I was crafting this episode, I was really doing my best to find credible articles and sources to really share with you all, because there's just a lot of information out there. And for me personally, I'm tuning into the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, and then also the WHO, the World Health Organization. So I'm going to just call it the WHO from now on. According to the WHO, the coronavirus can actually survive on surfaces from a matter of hours to a matter of days. So if you go on their website, you'll see like it's undetermined. They don't know how long this thing lasts. So some sources say 72 hours, some say weeks. So nobody knows. And that's the scariest part of this virus to begin with, is like people just don't know. Like even the experts don't know, or they're not telling us what they know. So the best thing that we can do is properly cleanse and sanitize our spaces. Like that is law, that is a must. And the WHO recommends to clean like all of your high touch surfaces. So any type of like counters or tabletops, like little knobs around the house, door knobs, any type of fixtures for your sink or your bathroom, anything. Like even cleans your phones and your keyboards and your computers. Wipe all of that stuff down, because the virus I've also seen, now I need to confirm if this is true. I'm not sure. So this one, do your research on. But when it comes to steel or metal surfaces, it has a much longer lifespan. So when it comes to your phone, because we use our phones to do everything, to go everywhere, all the things, make sure that you're wiping it down and you're cleaning it to get any type of germs off. If you work amongst other people, because there's people that still got to go to work. There's people at the post office. There's people at the grocery stores. There's people at the gas stations, all the essential stores that are still open. If you work in one of those, just make sure that when you come home, if you can, place your clothes, in a laundry basket or something and hop that ass straight in the shower so that you can clean off your body and anything that might have stuck into your clothes or your skin. Because I've also read that the virus can live in the fibers of clothing, because it can survive on surfaces from, like I said, 72 hours to a matter of weeks. So it can live on a lot of things. So we just want to make sure that we are cleansing our clothes and then our bodies before we touch or do anything in our homes, to just prevent the affected surface area or potentially affected surface area. So that is cleansing from a sanitation perspective. When I also recommend to do like a home clean out, and by that I mean decluttering, reducing the amount of items in your space, I think is good for us in general. This is not just being, in pandemic mode, but this is also something that I started to do, I think like the end of February, before all of this blew up. I just had this itch to want to clean out my space. And That's simply because I was paying attention to it from an energetic perspective. The amount of time, annoyance, clutter in my space that it was causing me, I was just like, all of this stuff has got to go. But now seeing all that is happening, I can see now how important it is to have less stuff that takes up space in our homes, especially if it's stuff that we don't use or we haven't used in the last several years, to let that stuff go so that we can have less stuff to manage too, and we can keep our stuff clean and organized. So, yes, cleansing your space sanitation wise, also cleansing your space in the form of decluttering so that you also declutter your energy field, it's so important, okay? It's so important. And when it comes to decluttering, don't try to just do it all at once. I mean, hell, if you got the time and you got, well, we got time. A lot of us have time now. But if you just put your focus on one section of one room for maybe about 30 minutes a day, that's usually what I was doing. That creates change over time, right? That's an intention. That's a small intentional action and step that you can take to start to make space in your home, in your mind, and then also just minimize, more surface area that can be touched. Alrighty. So, number 3, use the internet wisely, my loves. So, pandemic mode or not, using the internet wisely is how we protect our energy and how we stay connected, and then how we also get information. Most of our information comes from the internet. When you are on the internet and you may be looking at what's going on in your community or what's happening, you really want to go to credible sources if you're looking to check facts, and just be aware of how your energy feels when you are looking at things. I would just highly recommend, when it comes to looking at updates for the virus, to go back to the homies, the CDC and the WHO, and also use the internet to garner information that is going to be helpful and resourceful to you. So I know that our utility companies out here have shut off any suspensions. People, they're in queue to get unemployment benefits. There's schools in our area who are still giving out free food, especially to the children who are out of school, but maybe that's where they were fed. That might have been their meal for the day. So there's schools giving out food. There's a local farm or a local garden out here who is going to be handing out free fresh food to people tomorrow morning at a farmer's market that they're putting on separately. So I would recommend to use the internet as a resource that, yes, keeps you informed and updated, because we don't just want to turn away and just pretend like this is not happening. Once again, going back to that acknowledgement of and acceptance of, but then this is part of the creating the plan, right? If you need resources, make sure that you're staying up to date on what's going on, and then also looking for resources in your area. And you can be a resource to someone else through the internet. So there may be a family out there or an organization out there who is donating funds to different people. There's an organization out here in Compton who just raised funds for 20 families. So, supporting organizations like that and being a resource for other people to receive help, I think is beautiful. It's a beautiful way that the internet brings us together to do that. So, checking facts, looking for resources, being of resources, being a resource to someone is, very responsible and very informative. And another thing I would recommend is to use the internet to connect, to truly connect with people. Once I finish this podcast, I'm going to connect with a friend of mine, and we're just going to have like a virtual happy hour. We're going to have our drinks, we're going to hang out, and we're going to connect and talk and, just shoot the shit. And just, that's how I'm hanging out with my friends now. And it's important to have that face to face contact with people. Um, just as an aside, when it comes to the psychology part of it all, having face to face contact actually helps to reduce or minimize the effects of any type of depression or, anxiety or any type of emotional problems. Having face to face contact, from what I've read, allows us to kind of just like reduce the symptoms of that. Not saying that that fits everyone, but I can get into that. I can believe that, um, because connection is so important. Connection is everything. We are social beings. So, in this time of social distancing, we are getting creative with how we go about that. So, find your community, find your friends, schedule your Zoom calls, your FaceTimes, do whatever you need to do over the internet to make sure that you feel connected and you're in someone's face, and you're just sharing and being vulnerable and laughing and talking. I also want to say that I think we should use the internet just to look up funny shit too, because laughter is everything for the soul. I have a friend who sends me like funny memes, a funny meme every single day, and I just love it. So many ways to use the internet, but definitely use it to your advantage and don't allow it to take over you and put you in a state of fear, because we're already battling so much of that. Woo! All right, y'all, we are making our way down the list. We are now on number 4, which is prioritize your physical wellness. Now, putting on my personal trainer hat, I used to be a personal trainer back in the day, but physical wellness is very important to me, and I'm more focused on functionality, immunity, prioritizing health. And so I really want to encourage those of you who are listening to do your best to take care of your body. Because in this time of quarantine, we are sitting, we are snacking. I am a snacky McSnack face, and it's so wild how, struggling with emotional eating was my thing, and I haven't dealt with it at all. I mean, I think like a couple months ago, there was a point where I just didn't even feel like eating, and I wasn't sick. I was just like, nah, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And now, hmm, now it's coming back strong. So we are doing the things, we are snacking, we're being stagnant, and we got to create some type of balance in all of this. And I'm encouraging you to choose what is right for you. I know for me personally, I'm making time to get outside and do some type of exercise. Sometimes, I'm going to be honest, it's 10 minutes. Sometimes it's 2 hours. It just depends. But making some time for some movement every single day, regardless of what you do, if it's a home workout, if it is, taking a walk up and down your block if you need to, or doing some jumping jacks, whatever it is, making sure that you are getting those endorphins moving in your system, making sure that you're doing things that are going to keep your muscles strong and keep your bones and your ligaments and your joints strong. You really want to do that, and your heart healthy. There's just so many other benefits to making sure that you're physically well, and it's also a mental release too. When we are getting those endorphins in our brains, it de-stresses our brains. So your physical movement is a form of, de-stressing your body in this time of heightened stress. So I highly encourage that. I also highly encourage to be more mindful with the foods that you're consuming. So like I said, I've been a snacky McSnacker over the last few weeks, and I know that I've also been doing green juices. I've also been doing my best to drink a lot of water, but I also know that I need to replace some of those snacks that I've been eating just with more vegetables. And That's simply because, the nutrients in vegetables, we vegetables and fruits and, all the things produced from um, the earth gives us so much that revitalizes our system and protects us from an immunity point of view. So, really investing time into things that are grown and cultivated of the earth and consuming that is what's going to help us retain this space of health and vitality in this highly stressful environment that we are all in. So that was layered, but at the end of the day, eat healthier foods, because let me tell y'all, ain't no shortage of the green foods in the grocery stores, okay? We may not be able to find no toilet paper. We may not be able to find no paper plates. We may not be able to find a lot of things, no milk. Yeah. We may not be able to find that, but let me tell y'all, there is plenty of fruits and vegetables, and I thank the Lord for that. Thank the heavens for that. So yes, investing in that. I also want to recommend, from what I have researched as well, with the coronavirus, it starts in your throat. And so it's important to drink warm or hot liquids. So we've been doing this. We've been drinking hot lemon water in the mornings and before we go to bed. Drinking the warm liquids allows the germs from the virus to wash down into your belly, and your stomach acid will kill it off. So if you start to feel any type of stuff in your throat, or even before that, just as a preventative measure, warm liquids, teas, lemon water, even just hot water, if you don't have anything else, is going to be very beneficial to you. If you can have any type of soups or, any types of hot foods, also very beneficial for you. So that is your wellness tip. And finally, number 5, create a spiritual practice. So once again, like everything else, this is going to look different for different people depending on your beliefs. The goal of it, though, is to have a space where you can pray or meditate and connect with your spiritual team. So that's your higher self, your guides, your ancestors, God's source, whatever you call it. I call on my ancestors. I have an ancestor altar for them, so I keep them fresh water, fresh flowers. I put some coffee up there for them. And, that is my space to come sit and connect with them. But making a space, whatever your higher power is, making a space to pray and connect not only gives you an opportunity to clear out your mind, but it gives you an opportunity to cultivate faith and trust in that higher power. And there's so much power in prayer, and we often don't realize how powerful our spiritual practices can be, because without getting too meta, there's a lot going on outside of our physical body that we don't see. So prayer and intention are important. I'm going to just leave it there. They're important. And with that, I want to also encourage meditation. And I encourage meditation because that is another way to de-stress our brains and our bodies. And I really want to encourage us to do grounding meditations. It's what's coming to me. And that's simply because grounding is what's going to pull us down from that anxiety, spinning, worry, fear, panic mode that I know that a lot of us kind of fluctuate in and out of. So having a grounding practice is going to be like extremely helpful. And I will link a grounding meditation, and then I will also create one. And when that's created, I'll replace the link below. But yes, grounding for sure in this time is going to allow our bodies to just kind of like settle into the moment and not worry as much about what's going on. So, another part of your spiritual practice can also be doing something that brings you joy. Think about joy and creativity are spiritual practices, whether we recognize that or not. When we connect to our intuition and we get into that space of creativity and we just do things just to do, that's a spiritual practice. So finding something that brings you joy and an activity that just sparks that joy in your heart, or it brings peace to your soul, is going to be another method to really take care of your body in this time. So think about what that could be for you. That could be reading a book. It could be watching a good movie. There's hella Netflix shows popping right now that I need to catch on because my friends talk about them. I've been hearing about this Tiger King that people are super interested in, and I haven't listened to it or watched it yet. But that's on the lineup. I personally finally caved and bought Disney Plus after holding out on it after however long it's been out, and I've been on that shit. Watching Disney Plus, also watching Outlander. I love me some Outlander, so I was watching that. And those are the shows that Outlander too, I just love the creativity of it, and it's just fun to watch because I don't watch a lot of TV, so it's just nice to just give myself the space. I think at this time and place, what is weird and it's odd is that for a lot of us, and this is not everyone's situation, I want to repeat again, but a lot of us, there's like this weird void of space where we're now just with ourselves. I don't want to say forced, but we're with ourselves. So some of us might need to even figure out what brings us joy and peace because we've been so attuned to like work mode or, functioning at the will of the world. And now that we're in a space of confinement, we have to discover what that is. So I encourage you to think of what that is and do those activities. I always talk about the activities, so many activities, because that is what gives our brains and our bodies that boost of love and excitement and goodness. Whatever brings you joy, that's what's good for your soul. That's what's good for your energy. It's what's good for your spirit. It's good for your ancestors and your higher power. Like it's just all good juju all around. So that's it for the 5 tips. So I'm just going to repeat them again. Allow yourself to grieve and cry. Cleanse your environment. Use the internet wisely. Prioritize your physical wellness and create a spiritual practice. That's it, y'all. We have to take care of ourselves on all fronts. And we have to understand that that means physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And we are all operating in this weirdness, right? This new unfortunate normal. And we're trying to make sense of it all, and we're doing our best that we can. But if we can just really focus on what we can control, then that will permeate out into the world. So be gentle with yourself. Recognize that no one has been through this before. No one has this figured out. And all we can do is our best to stay updated and informed, but then also take care of ourselves. And we can also be mindful of others and compassionate toward other people and their situation through those same actions and intentions. So if you are struggling, please know that you are not alone, and it is not weak to feel grief or to be scared. Lean into the people and the communities that you can trust most and express yourself, and spend some time getting to know yourself. And for those of you who have been affected, or you know someone who has been affected, I just want to say that I send my absolute love to you, and I pray over you. I pray that those who you know who have been affected recover and they're protected. And for those who have transitioned, I just send love to them and uplift them. And I thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Take care.